Chapter 4 Infinity. Do not even try. I never knew how it works. This dream I'm living is sincerely becoming a reality. Have you ever thought that a person can talk without moving their lips? Sort of like telepathy. I read about it when I was young. Some people were assumed to be able to speak to one another without using language, as we define it. At the end of the day, humans have not yet understood what it means to transfer a thought to another person. I haven't had enough time to practice, though. I am more engaged with a conversation that I'm not very content with sharing with any other person. There are things that I wish I had learned growing up, like how to communicate with animals, for example. I had a dog whom I thought I'd order to get away if I looked it straight in the eyes and thought hard, trying to transfer go away or move there to through the power of my mind. Other weird things I thought I might be able to do was telekinesis, where you would move objects without touching them. I remember that. You tried it during your high school finals, he said. Yeah, it was marvelous. My brother recorded it when I had a MySpace channel, but then it shut down and I lost the video. I don't know if I can recover it. Telekinesis is not something that I'm very worried about at this time, however. I'm actually worried about my own desires and what I want to accomplish. It is true that sometimes we just drift off and wander around looking for answers from the people we meet. But what if the answers we seek no human was able to answer? I've seen depictions of Jesus, for example, and I do not trust that he looks exactly as depicted in these pictures. If he was on Earth 2,000 years ago, how did people fashion his picture and how he looked then? I'm not too concerned about how he looked, but I'm more interested in the ability to know a person's true look, especially if contemporary sources fail to represent that after time had elapsed. How would people identify him when he comes back? I do not believe that Jesus is the Antichrist, because you can't have a person be an anti himself. In addition, the Antichrist is supposed to dissolve when Jesus looks at him. How? I'm not sure, but perhaps because the Antichrist will try to impersonate Jesus and tell people that he himself is Jesus, and people will start worshipping the Antichrist on the basis of him claiming to be God or even Jesus, as if Jesus had commanded anyone to worship him. He did not. How do you know that? Because Jesus was a messenger, a human who used to eat food and walk the streets. A messenger is but a human being who has a message to deliver from God to humanity. Had he commanded people to worship him, God would have struck him without hesitation. I have been pondering a thought for quite some time. What if angels could be seen in our real world? How would they look? I have not even been able to imagine them looking anything like the angels depicted in pictures or sculptures of ancient times. The wings. I cannot take the idea out of my mind. If Gabriel has 600 wings, what about other angels? It is difficult to rely on sources like Wikipedia for this matter, especially if we consider that angels live longer than humans. There were many depictions of angels around the world, and they all seem to contradict one another. Do they have human faces or animal faces? Do they have two eyes or multiple different numbers of eyes? In their true form, how long or how wide do their wings stretch out? Also, even if they have wings, do they even need to flutter the wings to stay in the air? Or are they just suspended and their wings are used for different purposes? All of these questions can lead us nowhere. because even if one of the depictions was true, we cannot know for sure how these wings work. Of course, it is also difficult because not one single person on the face of the earth can see angels and study the behavior of their wings, let alone describe their features periodically. Humans live a short life. At best, we can live to be 70 or 80 years old. The memories we have of our childhood, our adolescence, and our career life slowly but surely eliminates itself as the brain cells begin to deteriorate with old age. If angels can live longer, say 1,000 years or even longer, do they remember? How can they remember what happened on earth at that time of Jesus, Moses, or even at the beginning of time? It is said in the Quran that angels were commanded to bow down to Adam, which means that they were there when God created Adam. But thinking about it makes me wonder if they would remember doing that. If we have an angel and we were able to ask them if they remember doing that and they say yes, how does that work? What is it to remember doing something or even thinking of something we did in the past? As humans, it is hard to remember what we did possibly a week ago. Maybe because our minds can only remember so much and it needs to make way for other sets of memories, unless you have Alzheimer's, God forbid. If you try to remember a time when you were a child, would you actually recall what you were thinking at that time as clearly as you recall the incident itself? Remembering a thought is very much harder than remembering an action you did. So, how do thoughts work and how do we remember a thought? Do you find it difficult to think in the toilet? We ask. In my struggles to find answers to many questions, everything other people would reply with is Google it. It is a term that was coined by our ignorant generation, one which relies heavily on easy to reach information that we do not even care to memorize. The date of the Queen Victoria's memorial, the date the Declaration of Independence was signed, or even the assassination of JFK, for example, why would we try to memorize that information if it is easier to just type that question down on a search engine that is in itself biased towards a search indexing algorithm? The sites which get the most clicks from a search term tend to rise higher compared to others. It is still a possibility to find the answer you seek if you cycle through the search pages of millions of websites. But then again, which one is the most accurate and true information provider? A website which 600 people clicked as the first website for the search term, how big is infinity, or a website which was selected by only one person saying infinity does not exist? Which one of the two is the right answer? In a search engine that is built around information sharing from human experience and science, cannot prove infinity exists because even quantum computers cannot figure out how big this infinity is. Furthermore, if infinity does exist, where is it? There is no infinity. I cannot explain how fascinated I am with you. Language we have established as a means of communication cannot, in its very sophistication, describe anything you made. Do not touch them, I said. I swear I will never ever do it. Do you promise? No, I swear.